Greetings, YouTube. The doctor is in. Dr. Urios Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons and Dragons. And welcome back to the channel that takes power gaming to the next level. Today on the Doctor Spell Prognosis, we're going to be talking about the spell Symbol. We're coming to the end of all of our 7th level spells, and we're going to be going on to 8th level. This is one of the last ones. But first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a question or comment. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know I've got another video out. All right. Symbol is a 7th level spell that we are giving a C for players. We are giving this spell an A if it is used by the DM, by a Dungeon Master. So we're C for players, A for DMs. So let's leave it at C right now. And we're going to talk about the spell. It is usable by bards, clerics, and wizards. And so that's it. I mean, essentially that's it, because bards get this on their list. They don't take it with magical secrets. All right. 7th level spell. It has a casting time of 1 minute. So you most likely will not be using this in combat. It has a range of touch with a 60-foot radius, verbal, somatic, and material component. And the material component is a bunch of chemicals and powdered diamond and opal worth 1,000 gold pieces. So not just powdered diamond, but powdered diamond and opal. So depending on your DM, how easy is that stuff to find? Okay. But, you know, if you're casting this spell, you may be high enough level to cast Wish, and then you could just wish for as many of those components as you wanted. It lasts until it's dispelled or triggered. So when you cast a spell, you inscribe a harmful glyph on a surface. So this is one thing I disagree with. It says a section of a wall, a floor, or a table. And then it says, or within an object that can be closed to conceal the glyph, such as a book, a scroll, or a treasure chest. If you choose the surface, the glyph can cover an area of the surface no larger than 10 feet in diameter. That's a lot. If you choose, that's four 5-foot squares, by the way. If you choose an object, that object must remain in place if the object is moved more than 10 feet when you cast the spell. The glyph is broken and the spell ends without being triggered. A table is not a surface. A table is an object because you can move the table. So I am going to tell my players to ignore that part. Don't put it on a table. Well, you can put it on a table, but the table is an object, and if you move the table, it's going to break the spell. So I don't know why they put that in there. Again, there's a lot of different writers in these, and I don't think they all talk to each other very much. So the glyph is nearly invisible, and it requires an intelligence investigation check against the spell DC. At this level, that spell DC should be about a 19 or a 20. You decide what triggers the glyph. For glyphs inscribed on a surface, the most typical, they give you some examples here. So most common, but you can further refine the trigger so that the spell is activated only under certain circumstances or according to the creature's physical characteristics. Pretty much you can also specify creatures that don't trigger the glyph, such as those who say a certain password. So there's a bunch of different things there's an infinite number of possibilities with that for triggering. Now, once it's triggered, everybody is affected that's in the radius. There's nothing you can do about that. There's no clause in this spell that says certain creatures are affected and certain creatures are not. It's all about the trigger that happens. When you inscribe the glyph, choose one of the options below. Once triggered, the glyph glows, filling a 60-foot radius sphere with dim light for 10 minutes. That's 120 feet diameter. That's huge. And it's for 10 minutes. After which time the spell ends. Each creature in the sphere, when the glyph activates, is targeted by the effect, as is a creature that enters the space for the first time on a turn. So if they're pushed back in on a turn, they're going to get the effect again. Or ends its turn there. So not begins its turn, but ends its turn. So if you push it in there and it walks out, and so it's not going to end its turn there, then it's not going to get the effect. But if you push something in and you're able to push it into the center, more likely it's going to have to end its turn there because most creatures can't move that fast, and it's going to get whacked again. All right, so here are our choices. Death, 10d10 necrotic damage on a failed save, Constitution saving throw, half as much on a successful save. So on average, This is 55 points of necrotic damage or 27 on a successful saving throw. This happens under these circumstances up here. If they get pushed in, if they're in it when it goes off, they're making the save. If they get pushed back, if they leave it and then they get pushed back in, they're making a save. If they end their turn, they're making a save. And that happens for 10 minutes. Discord. Each target must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the target biggers and argues. I don't know why this is a Constitution saving throw. This is a mental effect. It's not a constitutional effect. It's not a health effect. This, I understand, you're resisting the effects of death with your Constitution. But this seems like a mental effect and probably should be a charisma or wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the target biggers and argues with others for 1 minute. During this time, it is incapable of meaningful communication and has disadvantage on attacks and ability rolls. For 1 minute, even if it leaves. Even if it leaves, it's affected by this for 1 minute. And there's no saving throws at the end of each of its turns. So 10 rounds, it's going to have disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. Fear. Each target must make a wisdom saving throw and becomes frightened for 1 minute on a failed save. Again, it's frightened for 1 minute, even if it leaves. While frightened, the target drops whatever it's holding and must move at least 30 feet away from the glyph on each of its turns. So that happens for a minute, whether it leaves the glyph or not. And if it goes back in, then it gets whacked again. Fear. Hopelessness. Each target must make a charisma saving throw. This seems like Discord, but, I guess. On a failed save, the target is overwhelmed with despair for 1 minute, regardless of whether they're in the symbol or not. During this time, it cannot attack or target creatures with harmful abilities, spells, or other magical effects. Insanity. Each target must make an intelligence saving throw. On a failed save, the target is driven insane for 1 minute. An insane creature cannot take actions, cannot understand what other creatures say, cannot read, and speaks only gibberish. The GM controls its movements, which are erratic. I would make a move randomly, just by rolling a d8. For one being north, and then going around the clock from there. Or you could do a d12 and do the clock on that one, with one being, with one being north. So, you could do whatever you want, but I would do this. But again, it's 1 minute, and it's whether they're in it or not. Pain. Each target must make a con save. Again, this one makes sense. And becomes incapacitated on a failed saving throw, which means they cannot take actions or reactions, which means they can only move with excruciating pain for 1 minute, and that's regardless of whether they're in it or out of it. Each target must sleep. Each target must make a wisdom saving throw or fall unconscious. This is probably one of the better ones. For 10 minutes, creature awakens if it takes damage or if someone uses an action to shake it or slap it awake. And then stunning, each creature must make a wisdom saving throw, become stunned for 1 minute. Okay. And remember, if they're stunned, they can't move. They're incapacitated, which means they can't take actions or reactions. And they fail dex and strength saving throws. If they are stunned and they are in it for 1 minute, they are going to remain in it, and they're going to end their turn. They're going to keep ending their turn, and they're going to have to keep making saving throws. So that minute could actually turn into 10 minutes. All right, so let's go over some pros and cons of the spell. So I think a pro of the spell is it's a 60-foot radius. But a con of the spell is it's a 60-foot radius. It's both a pro and a con. It's a really big radius, but if you're a player that's utilizing this spell, sometimes you don't want things to be that big. And so that it can get in the way. The effects are all awesome. I like stunning. There is no reason why there couldn't be two of these that go off, that you could have one go off and another go off. The trigger could be, if one is on a surface, you could have two on a surface, and if one goes off, the other one goes off, that's the trigger, and you could have the death effect and the stun effect. That would just be gross, just absolutely gross. The trigger is very customizable. I just gave you an example of the trigger for that, which is great. Players can play around with that too. It's a great DM spell. Again, for DMs, This is why did I do that? For DMs, this spell is an A, an absolute A. For traps, if you mix this in with creatures who either are not affected, like if you have a fear and the creature is immune to fear, then who cares? Things like that. And it'd just be a pain for the players. And it's hard to find. So again, intelligent investigation check should be a 19 or 20 by this level. And that is something that's not easy to find. Now, if you have good rogues in the party, rogues at this level let me repeat that, they should be have expertise in investigation. They should have that. Okay, so some of the cons. It costs 1,000 gold. It's very circumstantial with that, and so you may or may not like that 1,000 gold. Can't move it. That's another one. Ignore the table. I think the table was a mistake that they put that in there, but you can't move it. Really, it goes on a surface it cannot move, or it goes on an object that cannot move. It affects everything in the radius, regardless of enemy or ally. Whoever casts it, it doesn't matter. Everything gets affected. All right. For players, this is a C. So for players, it's not a great spell. It can have its uses, but it's very circumstantial. And the last con I have that I looked at with this spell is that it only affects things when they end their turn. I do like when they enter the turn for the first time on a turn. That is one of my favorite phrases in here because you can push things into this. But ending a turn, that's okay. But it is a big enough radius that if something ends its turn in the very middle, it could, if it's pushed into it and it's pushed into the middle, it's probably going to end its turn inside. Okay. What are cheesy ways to get around this? Well, you could cast Wish. So let's take a look at Wish. And any moment, D&D Beyond will pick up the spell that I want and display it for you to see. All right, here we go. The basic use of the spell is to duplicate any other spell of 8th level or lower. Symbol is level lower than 8th. Check. You don't need any requirements in that spell, including costly components. Okay, we don't need to spend that. The spell simply takes effect with a 1-action casting time. Imagine that. So symbol, you could go Wish, symbol, and it would go. Just got to be careful how you use it. Is that the best use of Wish? Probably not, but it is a way that you can cast this very powerful spell instantly. And players do need prep time for this, but if you do have prep time, let's say you're being chased and you want to stop that chase from happening, and you've got some time, you've got a minute, you can drop a symbol down somewhere on a surface where you know the ground is still a surface, it can't move, where you know that, or a big rock there, where you know that somebody who is chasing you is going to catch up to you, and you could very much customize the trigger so that it'll go off when they come by, and then the chase could end at that point. All right, that is what I have for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody later.